Hey everybody, welcome to Behind the Bar, season three, kicking off season three with Barry Laminack. And it's good to have you here. I mean, Barry's from Houston. His special No Warning on Dry Bar is a huge hit. I came across it randomly. We've never met before.
Yeah.
And then I find out he's a sports talk radio guy on ESPN for a while. Now you have your own sports talk radio show. And then you have a TV, it was Sports Saturday on TV,
Yeah.
and I just like saying sports, and then Barry on Deck on Twitch. So once I found out you were a comic and a sports guy, I was like, I don't know if this is going to be an all day thing. I know the games start soon, the NFL games, so we got to keep it tight. But look, man, I watched your special. I loved it.
Thank
I
you.
texted you the screenshot. Dry Bar put no warring.
I was like, I didn't notice that until you sent it. I was like, well, I mean, that's still a good message.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm not gonna be too mad. So yeah.
Yeah, that's hilarious. It reminds me of a friend of mine has a joke in it where he says Jesus Christ in it, right? And it's not in a bad way, just like someone complaining. And they were like, "Hey, take that out." So he rehearsed forever to replace it with cheese and rice, right? So it sounds the same, like Jesus
Yeah.
rice, cheese and
Yeah.
rice. On his dry bar special, when they did the closed captioning, they put Jesus Christ.
You're like, no. You didn't fix that. I fixed it. You unfixed it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
I
look,
dude,
man.
they I was gonna say they had me so nervous about that stuff when I first did it. I was just
Oh
like,
yeah.
oh my gosh, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to not say. Yeah. It was, I don't
It's
know if
quite a
you were.
long list of like, because your audience is obviously clean comedy fans, but the live audience in Provo, it's even like I remember them saying, "Look, if you have a wife and you do you're self-deprecating towards the wife, make it the joke ultimately be about you, not
Yep.
the wife."
Dude, the list got in my head. It was like I watched my performance and I'm like, that's not even me. Just
Right,
because I was so in my head about all these jokes. Cause I don't normally work clean.
right,
I can and I do, but it's not my like if I write a joke, I don't think about, well, this has to be clean as you can't. I just write it how I talk. And
right.
then if I can clean it up, cool. If not, well, then that's a not clean joke that I have. So I was really in my head about all the rules and the
Yeah.
do's and don'ts, and yeah, it was nerve wracking.
And thank goodness it was you taped two shows, right? So you had two shots at it.
Yes, yes,
You
yeah. At
got to
one
mesh
point, I
those
did
together.
say, because they tell you don't take the Lord's name in vain, don't do it, and I did at one point. I was like, oh, and I was like, I think I said something to the effect of I just said, oh Jesus, and then and in my mind I didn't say anything out loud
Yeah.
like I'm sorry. I didn't fall
Right.
down and be like, ah, they
You,
forgive
you
me.
half expected like a trap door.
Yeah, there you go. Then the lion comes out, and I'm like, oh. But I was in my mind though for the next 7 minutes of my set. I was like, well, this is terrible. This is the
Yeah,
worst thing that's could have ever happened.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it,
But
it messed with me. That's for sure.
what was your? I mean, I'm sure your experience was like all of ours. It's a first class operation. You know, they set you up nice. They trout it.
Absolutely.
Everything's cared for. You get to the set. It's well designed. The people are great and whatnot. How did you? Because you've been doing comedy for a while, right?
Yeah, over 10 years.
How do you? Some of the questions I get from people that listen are like, people that have been doing comedy for so long. How do they prepare for a 25-minute set that's going to be televised and recorded? What's your thought process behind that?
Man, you know what? I just ran that set, the same set that I wanted to do over and over. So if I was doing a show, even if I was headlining somewhere and I was doing 45,
Yeah,
I would tailor the set around that 25. And what I would try to do is start with it.
right,
What I didn't want to do is get the audience on my side and then do the set in the middle because it wouldn't feel authentic
right.
and I wouldn't know what it would be like to start cold with it. So I would
Yeah,
always start a 45 hour minute or hour long set with that first 25 minutes and then figure out how to transition into the rest of my material or jokes or whatever. So yeah, that was, and I just ran it over and over. And of course, like a lot of us do, I've got buddies and friends that I would, hey, I'm trying to punch this up, and what do you guys think
right.
about this? And they would
Mhm.
throw in tags or ideas, and so that helped a lot, and it really helped that they felt like I was like, okay, well, this is what my set's gonna be, but I don't know how
Right.
good it is, and having friends that can reinforce like, yeah, this is really good. I think this is gonna pop, or maybe you should replace this with another joke or bit that you have. So it was
Yeah.
cool to kind of workshop it with your friends too.
That's very smart. I think comics that listen to this podcast should take note that you opened with that 25 minutes, right?
Yeah, don't
Because
put it in the middle. Don't put it in the end. If you're gonna go out cold with your
yeah,
and you're they do have an MC, but that MC is for the beginning of the show. Seth,
yeah,
well, I don't know if he's still doing it, but
yeah,
Seth would go out and open and warm up the crowd, but then it was three comics doing 25 each. So
yeah,
kind of not going up cold per se, but you want to know what it feels like to start with
right,
that opening joke and
right,
then see if they're on board for the whole set or not. So
right. Because if you're doing an hour and you're killing for 25 minutes, you have a lot of flexibility with what you can do
yeah.
for the middle 20. So you want to open up cold. Seth is great. Seth, I've had him on the podcast. Seth Tippins,
Yeah, he's great.
Mr. Gigante. He's 7 foot,
Such
whatever.
a large man. I mean, I was like, wow, this is intimidating. This
Yeah.
is scary. Like,
I may have told him this when I had him on, or when he opened for me too when I did my dry bar. But I've always wanted to do a bit about tall people, being around tall people. I've never been able to get it to work. Being around tall people, and I think in my subconscious mind, I always think that if someone's taller than me, they're smarter than me. You know what I mean? Because they're higher. They're like higher to the
they're
sky of
closer to the
knowledge.
knowledge.
Yeah, like I look up and I'm like, hey, what's going on up there? How
Yeah.
is
I always revert to childhood. I'm always like,
Yeah,
they're older than me.
right.
They're an authority figure. And it's like, wait a minute. I'm like
Yeah,
twice Seth's age. Like,
yeah,
let me tell you something, young man. That
right.
feels weird. You know what I mean?
Let
But
me get a
yeah,
step stool and tell you something, young
yeah,
man.
that's right.
I
Here,
think
pass
that
this
I'm
note up to him, would you please? Thank you.
someone someone put this on the elevator escalator. Yeah, maybe I'll tie it in with this new idea I have about why I think older people get shorter. Like you've never met a 6'7", 80-year-old.
Right.
They're just
That's
getting.
it.
I think it's
They
God's
get
way of
dumber. I guess maybe we get dumber as we get older. Maybe that's the angle.
yes, or
They
like
shrink.
yeah. That's funny.
Yeah. If
I
you
think
ever
maybe
meet a 3 foot tall old person, there might be the dumbest person ever. That's
come here, little fella.
come here.
I was in World War II. Come
It
on.
doesn't matter. You're dumb now.
I think it's God's way of just driving people to faith. Maybe like he's making them smaller. Like look where you're going. You're going down this way. You
Yes.
might want to get some.
Could be.
So you open. Here's one of my favorite parts of your special because you essentially, if I describe this to people that haven't seen your special, no warning yet, they wouldn't believe me. But essentially, you told that some of the audience members might die.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You did
That's,
it. Yeah.
that was and what I was a bit concerned about was, and I really didn't think about it at the time. And had I had enough forethought and foresight, I guess I probably wouldn't have done jokes about COVID
Right.
in my special. But I didn't know the time frame for this. Like I thought,
Yeah.
oh, you record a special, it'd be out in a month or two. And so COVID and the pandemic was still very fresh. I
Yeah.
didn't know they'd sit on it for a year and a half,
Yeah.
almost 2 years. And
Yeah.
so like we recorded October 2021 and they released it in September of 2023. So I was like,
Wow.
well, that looks really weird now that
Yeah.
I'm opening with 5 to 6 minutes of pandemic material. Cause as comics, we do topical stuff. And
Yeah.
um, so yeah, that was but it was funny because that opening bit, it seemed to do well
Yeah.
most often with crowds because it kind of resonated with the fear of the pandemic and kind of
Yeah.
making light of it. But yeah, sometimes you just got to tell them the truth. All right. Some of y'all
And
may not make
I
it.
mean, and was it still a spaced out crowd as far as like,
No, I was fortunate.
okay, good.
They were all together. So yeah, it was just kind of I'm guessing. That was my first time
Yeah.
at the Dry Bar Comedy Club, but there was nobody upstairs, but the
Yeah.
crowd was normally sat.
Yeah. 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 Good. Good. Because I've had some folks on here that did their special where it was the tables were 6 feet apart and people wearing masks, and you can almost hear the echo of even them speaking. It was really hard to manage the sound. I imagine for the dry bar folks because it was just maybe half or less of the people, and you got to deliver your
Right.
jokes still. And you don't even know if they're smiling or laugh because they're all wearing masks and stuff.
Yeah, sorry about that. My screen and everything just went blank for a second. I don't know if my
No,
video
you're
cut
good.
off, but everything just went blank for a second there.
Hey,
Yeah, that was the thing about doing comedy during the pandemic in general
yeah.
was the masks and the spacing. And I remember one show I did, we couldn't get it was at the Houston Improv, and they put a piece of tape on the stage. They were like, you can't cross this line. I was like, what
Oh,
happens if I cross that line? Am I gonna get shot? What
right.
do y'all do? And they were like, well, you can't get that close to the crowd, and then we have the tables that far back.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just a weird dynamic, but I think everybody was just so determined to get some normalcy and some comedy that
Right,
we
right.
we did it anyways.
It was
So
so
yeah.
great. I mean, I don't want to harp on the COVID thing. I think both of us have heard enough of it, but it was really, really, I don't think people realize how nice it was as a performer to get back to that that audience interaction
And just
and
seeing the faces laugh.
yeah,
It's weird. You never thought about seeing people, because laughter it's an audible thing, we think. It's a visual thing too. There's
yeah,
some people you can tell when you're doing a show, you'll see some people laughing, but you don't hear the sound. But the fact that you can see it is kind of reassuring as a
yeah.
comic that,
Oh yeah,
okay, this person's not making a noise, because some people are inside laughers. They're just like,
right. And they should stay home.
yeah, and they don't make a noise, but that's what the rest of the crowd is there for, to carry them. But
Yeah,
it was nice to see, people's faces. Most of them. Some of them there
Y-
was,
yeah,
but
yeah.
most of the faces it was nice
You
to
can
see.
almost see like if there's some inside laughers, you can kind of see the creases of the mask go up. I'm like, I guess this person's enjoying themselves.
I would
What am I gonna
just
do?
watch the chest bounce. Okay, I got you. Good, good, good.
I think I do that normally, and either way. Um, the two other bits that stick out for me are the scavenger hunt, dealing with technology and your mom and your
Yeah.
parents. Really, like I wish I thought of it. Texting you that she sent you a Facebook message.
That is they always say that the comedy is rooted in truth, and that joke began with just 100% truth.
Yeah,
And that my mom, she'll, whether she calls me or texts me, she has to let me know that it's her, as
right,
if I would be like, who? I don't know a mom. I don't. Who
right,
is this? Who is this random lady that's in my contacts that
right.
says mom? Yeah, it was just I just, it's one of those things as a comic, you kind of observe it, and then you're like,
Yeah,
okay, this is enough. I got to write about this. So
right.
yeah, it's I think we go through that with a lot of our parents. I think, or a lot of
Oh yeah,
people in our lives. Just we're fortunate enough to be a little better with technology than they are.
yeah.
So
I'm only a little bit better. I mean, I got to tell you, I wish I had a
really,
producer. Like for all this stuff, podcasting and any editing my stand up, I wish I could literally just walk into this office and they go, "You're on," and I don't touch anything. I just talk. You know what I mean?
yeah, oh yeah, it's a nice thing, because I do both sides of it. Doing radio
Oh,
and TV, I just walk in and they go, "You're on," and then here I'm getting ready, and I'm a one man show when I do my sports talk show, and it's 4 days a week, so it's
right.
a lot of production, a lot of work. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
My mother does it on the tells me it's her at the end. So like on a voicemail, it'll be a minute long of like, look, we're thinking about having Thanksgiving. I might go to to Heather's house and we'll all meet there. We'll have a good. You bring this, I'll bring that. It'll be a great time to stay the weekend. It's your mother. Give me a call. Is it?
It's like, what? No kidding.
Yeah,
Oh, it's the best. And I guarantee you, I'm gonna end up doing that one day. I
oh yeah,
promise you, at some point as I get older, that just you default to that. I
yeah.
really feel like that's just like a default thing.
I'm already feeling it. My son is 17 and he does an impression of me looking at my cell phone and he kind of holds it back. He's like, and he's scrolling all slowly. I'm like, dude, I'm not 80.
That's
Cut me some slack.
outstanding. Yeah, that's outstanding. Yeah, that's next. That's
Yeah.
next.
Did you grow up in Houston?
I did. Born and raised
Oh
Houston,
wow.
Texas, man. Yeah, born and raised here. Lifelong Houstonian.
You have no
So,
you have a neutral accent. Is that because a lot of TV and radio?
I don't know.
You have a voice. You have a great, you have a radio TV voice, but no
Thank you.
southern, no northern, no accent. It's
I think it comes out when I think it comes out certain times on stage,
yeah.
especially. But yeah, I guess I don't know. I don't know if it was a conscious thing, because it's certainly my mother for sure has a southern twang and a
Okay.
southern draw, and I can revert to that sometimes. You know, it's
Yeah.
like I dated a girl that was from New Jersey, and she had moved down here, and she really didn't have a Jersey accent by the time we started dating. But then everyone's like, if she got mad,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
you'd hear the Jersey come out. So that was maybe that's the like if I'm on stage or I can tell like if I'm really in the pocket, right?
Right.
And I'm feeling good about the set and I'm feeling good
Yeah.
about myself doing the set. You kind of just when you're 100% and wholly you
Yeah.
on stage, yeah. Then the twangs and the accents will come out.
Yeah. 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 What's we went over how you kind of got together your set and what you did to prep for it. What's your it's hard to imagine you have time to write with all you're doing, but what do you ever write? Do you sit down, do you schedule it? Do you just think of an idea, pop it in your phone or on paper and then look at it later? What's your style?
You know, I should sit down and write every day. That's the responsible,
Right.
mature, um, dedicated thing to do, but I just don't. And sometimes it's a detriment, right?
Right.
And
It's
and
forced.
sometimes, yeah, sometimes it's a benefit because I'm one of those guys where if I sit down and write for 10, 20, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, and it's just nothing,
Yeah.
then I feel like I just wasted 40 minutes. I could have been editing videos or I could have been doing other
Hmm.
things. And I get it. You know, there's a great book out called The War of Art,
Yeah.
and it talks about sitting down and letting the muse take over. And you got to show up every day and the muse will be there. And it just seems like most of the time when I sit down, the muse is busy. The muse is out of
Right.
town. She's got other things going on. And I'm like, okay, I don't have time for the muse because I've got a lot of stuff to do.
I
Right.
thought we had an appointment.
Yeah, I need a schedule. Can I just get on the Muse's schedule? That would make it a lot easier for me. But so I just kind of go off of inspiration, and also sometimes when the Adderall hits, then I'm like, all right, we're gonna write 70 jokes in three
Yeah.
minutes. Let's
Yeah.
go. Yeah, but I just if I have an idea or an observation or what a lot of times what I'll do is I'll just make a note of my phone so I don't forget that
Yeah.
whether it was just a punchline or a premise, I'll make that note and then I'll revisit it or and it sounds really weird, but I do a lot of writing in the shower.
Yeah.
I just it I'm if you
Because your mind's shut off.
yeah. If you
Weird,
were a
right?
fly on the wall in my shower or in my car or if I go for a walk, yeah, I look like a crazy person because
Right.
I'm
Right.
literally just talking about a bit I want to do or a joke
Yeah.
idea that I have, and I'm talking it out. And I think that's for me, it kind of defaults to how I was funny originally,
Hmm.
if that makes sense. Like I was always the guy that was funny in the moment around people and seeing something that would happen and make a joke of it right
Right.
then and there. And so as I honed my skills as a stand-up comic, I found that yeah, I can try to sit down and write,
Right.
but now I'm not really talking. I'm not in the moment. I'm trying to think of something funny.
You're dictating, right?
Yeah, as opposed to what normally happens is I'll be in the moment hanging out. You know how it goes. You hang out with your buddies
Sure.
and you're just saying stuff that's funny and everybody's that's that vibe. That's kind of how I wanted to write. I wanted my vibe to be me. So I'll just start talking about stuff.
Yeah.
And I just hit record on my phone, even in the shower. That's what that thank
Sure.
goodness these phones are now waterproof. I just set it in there and start talking about whatever it is,
Right.
and then go back and pull out the good stuff, and that's when I'll write. But I
Yeah. Of
always talk my jokes out first.
course.
It's really weird, but
No, it's not.
that's
I
my
think
process.
you make a couple great points. Some people say they when they walk or run, they get
Mhm.
that the creative burst. And I've been taking a lot of long walks lately just to get more exercise and whatnot. And I'm finding as I talk to myself, I'm like, oh my, that's a great idea. This is a great you because you're whether you're exercising or in the shower or your mind almost shuts off and
Yeah, yeah,
it's almost the same concept as like I tell people I know a lot of people that are not comedians that are funnier than me. Not a lot, a handful of people, but I'm like, man, if they could ever bottle
yeah,
that, and that's what a comedian's job is. You get that, you
yeah.
find the funny, you bottle it for an audience of 300 in Iowa. You know what I mean? Like, or
Right.
Connecticut or wherever. I'm like, dude, you are hilarious. He's like, yeah, but I can never do what you do. And I'm like, if you ever could figure out how to bottle that, you have it.
Yeah,
You know?
It's I mean there's a ton of funny people. They just it's also not just being funny, right? Being a comic is more than just being funny. It's figuring out how to take that funny and there is a formula to it, right? Set up, punch,
Right.
but it's figuring out how to do that and then delivering it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know a ton of funny comics that their performance is always the weakest part. They're fantastic writers. They're
Right.
great writers. They're magnificent, but on stage, and there's no energy. They stand still. They don't look at the audience. They don't even make eye. They just sit there and tell their jokes, and the jokes are amazing, but you lose something with the performance. So it's like you said, if you could bottle it and learn how to perform and learn how to write
Right.
those jokes into a set or into a bit, it's dangerous because that's
Right.
the skill, right? That's
Yeah.
the skill. A lot of people are funny around their friends. It's how can you do that, like you said, formulaically for an audience in Iowa, an audience in the deep south, an
Right.
audience in the Pacific Northwest. That's the challenge.
Yeah. Yeah. Delivery, cadence, timing.
Yeah,
Um,
content. I mean, I just
oof.
did a show for the first time in front of a predominantly Arab audience, 10 plus years. And I pride myself on being able to perform. And that's, in fact, not to toot my own horn, but one of the best compliments I've ever been given in 10 plus years of this business was I had asked the Houston Improv. I had opened for several comedians who were LGBTQ plus, and I was like, this
Right.
is like 7 in a row. Am I kind of the go-to for this crowd now? And they were like, no, you're just the go-to because you can work in the audience. We can trust you to be funny in front of any style of audience, and
Right.
we don't have to worry about it. If you show up and you're the feature, we're
Yeah.
good. I was like, wow, that's a huge compliment. So I took a lot of pride in that when I heard that. And so
Sure.
yeah, learning how to do jokes for a predominantly Arab audience was completely different experience for
I
me
can't
after
imagine.
10 years in. So first
Yeah.
set didn't go great. Second set went a lot better because I went back in and
Yeah.
readjusted the set list. And yeah, it was a good time.
Yeah. You talk about in your special how being in a interracial relationship or
Mhm.
marriage, right?
Yep, interracial marriage,
And you
correct.
said you're white and your wife's Hispanic, right?
Yep, absolutely. She was she's third,
I thought
fourth
you were gonna say she
generation.
was Hispanic. She was Hispanic, but she's
Yeah,
giving it.
she's transitioned over. She's gone to Irish. She really felt like their coffees were good and
She's trans
um
Irish.
yes, yeah, absolutely. Nah, she's of Mexican descent. And I want to say like fourth generation, third generation. Yeah, so it was really cool, getting to learn her culture and getting to
Yeah.
learn and being around the family and stuff like that. It's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. That's got a nice twist to it.
Oh yeah.
I talk about it a little bit on stage about my great grandmother was born and raised in Puerto Rico, so I'm part Puerto Rican.
Nice.
And people
Yeah.
you can't tell.
You're like, yeah, you don't see it. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say I like it because having a Latina wife it's like having a wife and a drill sergeant and a second mom and like it's fantastic. And I need that in my life.
Right.
I'm just a terribly lazy person. So she's a spitball. She's a spitfire. So it's
That's
great.
great. You've been married for a while.
We started dating in 1998. We got married in 2004. So we've been together forever.
That's great, man.
Yeah, it's been cool. Yeah.
Cool. You have I meant to mention this at the top. Not only your name, your voice, you have a sports name. You have a Laminack's is a I'm a big fan of like I like to when I find out someone's name, I'm like, all right, what do I think they do,
Ah,
for a living? Like Danny Johnson is your unemployed uncle on the couch, right? But Barry Laminack is like he's like the left wing for the Islanders. You know what I mean?
oh, nice.
Like Laminack is a I don't know. It's a weird,
Well, I definitely don't have a hockey body. I
right.
might have a hockey name,
Maybe the
but
referee,
this is more of a curling body.
right?
This is more of a lawn darts body than a hockey body for sure.
That'll
Yeah,
be the next sport, the Olympic sport, because they already have was it the cornhole? Isn't that a
I want to say it
huge?
is, yeah, cornhole, and they added breakdancing, which I'm like, really? Are we dude? Is that even a sport? I mean, don't get me wrong, I would get winded for sure,
Sure.
100%. But why stop there? Now we need to add like line dancing and square dancing. And
Yeah.
I mean, if we're
Yeah.
going to do that, let's represent everybody.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see how they do-si do in, I don't know, Egypt. That'd be great. Be fantastic.
The Egyptian team once again has failed to place after doing the Egyptian dance.
Competitive square dancing team in Egypt would be amazing.
After they walked like an Egyptian for seven
Yes.
competitions in a row.
There's no call out for that technically in the square dancing manual. This is not, they've gone off script
Right,
again.
right. How did you get into the world of sports talk radio and TV?
Man, so I actually started comedy and sports talk radio around the same time. And I had wanted to be a stand-up comic since I was 8, and I loved sports talk radio.
Yeah.
I had a job where I grew up loving sports, and I remember my dad used to drive me home because my parents got divorced when I was 6, so my dad would drive me home on like Wednesdays and Sundays,
Yeah.
and and we would just listen to local sports talk in the car on the way home, and we would just talk of sports all the time.
Yeah.
So I had a passion for it. My mom's a huge sports fan, so I always had a passion for sports, and I had jobs where I would listen to sports talk all day, and I just fell in love with like Jim Rome. And locally, there's a couple of sports talk guys named Lance Zerline and John Granado, and they were
Okay.
huge, and they kind of fall in that same kind of Jim Rome type
Right.
thing where they make sports fun, they make it
Yeah.
funny, they make it interesting. It's not the same old boring
Right.
stats. And so I just thought, wow, that's a really cool thing to do, is to take something like sports and make it entertaining. And then
Yeah.
when I started getting into comedy, a buddy of mine worked at the local ESPN affiliate, and I was like, hey, you should put me on your show.
Right.
I'm funny and I know sports. And he was like, it doesn't work like that. It's kind of like, when somebody comes up to you and they're like, I'm funny, you should take me on the road with you. You're like, no,
Right.
you're delusional. Go
Right.
leave me alone, dad. I'm not doing that. But yeah, so he goes, no, Barry, this is the sixth largest media market in the nation. I'm not just
Right.
throwing you on my drive time show
Right.
on
Right.
ESPN radio because you think you're funny and know sports. And I was like, I'm telling you though. So he goes, I tell you what, the station has a contest coming up. It's called Rock the Mic. And
Oh
they do it
wow.
every year, and they just take listeners and fans and they compete against each other in a sports talk radio style format where we go to them, we ask them questions, they answer like it's a sports talk show, and they dwindle it down and get a winner. Win that. And he said what they'll do is they'll give you a trial like on a Sunday or something and see how
Right.
you do. And I was like, okay, when is it? He was like, Friday. This was Tuesday. I was like, oh, that seems sudden.
Whoa.
Yeah. So he goes, I said, okay. So I showed up. I had no idea what I was doing. And it was a 6 week contest, or yeah, 6, 8 weeks, whatever it was. And I just kept advancing and advancing and advancing. And you know what? It was, um, some would say luck, some would say the universe, maybe. But I was down to the final two, me and one other guy. Whoever wins was going to win Rock the Mic, right? And it was, what they do is they ask you a question and it's just you and you have to answer it. And then the next guy goes and answers it. Well, they were asking me the question, and I do my thing, and I get off the mic, and then he goes up to the mic and he starts answering. And there was a photographer there taking pictures, and he motions to me. He goes, "Hey, do something behind his back, like give him the finger or do something crazy." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm not doing that.
Right.
That's disrespectful. That's rude. I'm not doing this." He's like, "No, do something crazy." Like he kept wanting me to give the dude the finger behind
Right.
his head while he was talking and doing this thing. I was like, "I'm not doing that. That's childish. I'm a grown ass man. I'm not doing that." And so we got done. And the way that they would get the winner is they would say, all right, we're going to count to three. And then both of you say, my name is whatever. And I won Rock the Mic. One of y'all's mics is going to be on, one of your mics is going to be off. And
Right.
the mic that's on is the winner. And so I did it. My name is Barry, and I won Rock the Mic, and my mic was on. I was like, whoa, I just won. That's crazy.
Wow.
I won this on my sports acumen and entertainment value. And they go, now you want to know why you lost to the guy that lost? And he was like, yeah, what's up with that? They were like, because you were being a jerk behind his head the whole time he was doing his speech. If you just would have just been acted like a normal adult, you would have won. I was like, oh, there you go. Thank goodness my mama raised me right.
Wow.
And yeah, and then I spent the next 10 years on the station. So
Wow.
I got pretty lucky. So they put me on Sundays and like, we're going to try you for 6 weeks. And they paired me up with a good friend of mine now, Mike Liebeshaw. Great dude, great sports talk guy.
Laminack and
And
Liebeshaw.
yeah. The most Eastern European lawyer firm in history.
Have you been injured in a sports related accident? Call Laminack and Liebeshaw.
Liebeshaw, I believe, is Polish, and Laminack is German. So I was like, whoa, we have got a Eastern European front happening here.
You have some wounds to heal.
Yes, we do. We have to be very careful what we say. But yeah, they said they'll try me for 6 weeks, and I didn't get off air until they let me go in COVID in 2020. And
Wow.
that was in 2013 when I won the competition. So
Now on your
7 years.
show now, you're talking all sports, or you kind of do you
Oh
focus on?
yeah, my show is very loose, right? Like the one freeing thing about not being on the radio is I can say what I want, I can cuss,
Yeah,
I can do what I want. I don't have a I'm the program director, so if I don't feel like talking about something, or if I feel like going long on a topic and spending 30 minutes as opposed to 12 in a segment, I'm gonna
right,
do that. And yeah, it's a very adult sports talk show though. So
right.
if you do tune in, there's cussing. There's a
Sure.
lot of cuss. There's a lot
Yeah.
of cuss. So,
Well,
but yeah,
a lot of
it's
fans of a lot of different sports team have good reason to cuss. I'll tell you that.
yes, indeed. Yes, we have Cowboys fans. If I know that's what you were getting at. So yeah,
Yeah, well,
there's
I grew up in New York, so I pretty much
mhm.
I spent half my life
Yeah.
in New York, I'm in Florida now. But how about those Texans?
Hey, what?
Yeah,
You know what? There's no way you would have gotten me to predict what they were going to do this year. It
yeah,
was unexpected. I mean, you felt good. D'Amico Ryans, I was like, I couldn't wait to see what he was. But I'll be honest with you, both. I was not a big fan of Bryce Young or CJ Stroud.
wow,
I was like, hey, maybe just suck again this year and then go get Caleb Williams.
right,
I feel like they made the right decision, kind of, right? So they had to pick second. They had the second pick in the draft because
right,
Lovie Smith hates the Texans and won the last game of the season. So
right.
instead of getting the first pick in the draft, they got the second. Well, Chicago being Chicago, they
Yeah,
messed that all up and gave it away. And Carolina being Carolina took Bryce Young. So it all kind of happened in a weird way. Like the football
yeah,
gods were like, you know what? We know Houston sports fans have suffered their entire lives.
yeah,
Here's a little nugget. Go be happy.
yeah. And
Go
it's
go
all
be
due to
happy.
all those picks. Nico Collins,
Yeah.
everybody's due to
Yeah.
Deshaun Watson trade. They got all those
Yeah.
picks, right?
Well, the number two pick was just them being terrible. So
Right.
getting CJ Stroud was just them being terrible, but being able to trade up to get Will Anderson at 3,
Yeah.
who also had a great first year.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the Deshaun Watson trade.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I this is the first season, maybe not the first season, but first season I could think of where I was rooting for my Giants to stop winning so we can get a better draft. Like, what are we doing with Tommy Cutlets over here?
Oh, but can I just tell you how annoying that was? Hey,
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
just like, oh my gosh. His agent was, oh
Yeah,
my goodness, Central Casting
yeah. The whole
esque.
family.
Oh, are they? I know I saw his agent and his dad, and his agent just looked like they would show his agent in the stands. I was like, he just left a hit. Like
Right.
he just got
It's
back
fresh off the
from
yeah,
burying a body. You could see some dirt on his suit.
yeah.
I was just like, wow,
There's a couple
he
shots
is
of his whole family in the stands. They're all kissing and hugging and high fiving, all the chains and the big Italian folks or whatever.
it's
Dude,
outstanding.
one of the most Italian things I've ever heard at a ball game, at a sporting event growing up in New York, and it's really not that funny unless you're in the moment. And now it's funnier as an adult. I'm at a Yankee game, and there's this big Italian guy behind me. Just hadn't said much, but very heavy set Italian guy, very nice, whatever. And I must have been a teenager, and this is going into like 12, 13, 14 innings. It's an extra inning game, and it was so quiet and half the people left, and finally he just he yells, he goes, let's go, I got ziti in the oven, or lasagna, whatever he said.
Yeah.
Like, he lives somewhere close and he's got it in the oven for 4 or 5 hours. He's like, come on, pick it up.
Come on, what are you doing? Yeah, that's hilarious. That's sports fans in a nutshell. Yeah, I
Yeah,
can see that happening at a Texas game. Let's go. I got chili in the pot. Okay.
right,
Wow.
right.
All right. Yeah,
But I love.
let's get this guy out of here, guys. Come
Right.
on.
Why don't we help me out here?
Yeah.
I love CJ Stroud. I liked
Yep.
watching him play. I'm like I said, I'm in Florida. I'm actually near Jacksonville. So if I go Giants, Jacksonville, we're rivals technically.
Right.
Disappointing season for the Jags. I think Trevor Lawrence was hurt the last couple games. You can see it in his
Yep.
play, but
Yep.
certainly someone, you hear some idiots out there going, they should move off of Trevor. I'm like, all right, it's really
Yeah.
dumb. But
There's, I'll say this. My opinion has always been of quarterbacks in the NFL. If as a organization, I think some organizations will say, well, it could be worse.
yeah,
Right? There's some quarterbacks that you look at and go, it could be worse. When the question should always be, do we believe we can win a Super Bowl
with
with
this,
X, with
right,
Trevor Lawrence, with Baker Mayfield, with whoever it
right,
might be? And if the answer is no, okay, well then what's the contingency plan? You can't just, hey, Trevor Lawrence, get out, and
yeah,
then but are you actively pursuing another quarterback that you could bring in, maybe like a Jordan Love
yeah,
behind an Aaron Rodgers? Of course you believe you can win a Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers, but it's not forever.
right,
It's gonna end. So what's the contingency plan? How do you yes, I think that's a question that a lot of teams have and be brutally honest. And I don't think I would move on from Trevor Lawrence, but do we
no,
think Trevor Lawrence is a Super Bowl caliber quarterback?
I don't know,
I don't
I don't
know.
know,
Yeah, that's for smarter people to decide. But if they don't, then maybe make a plan. You've seen him a
yeah,
few times now in the playoffs and on a postseason run that didn't happen. So I don't
yeah.
know. It's a good question.
I think if
That's
you get, I think he needs a lot of, he needs some really great weapon. I think that's the true test, right? So you can see the difference in Mahomes with and without Tyreek Hill. Not too much. He's still a great quarterback.
sure.
But
if
you
his
look at
if his receivers would catch the ball. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like that's not his fault. He's making the right reads and the right throws. It's kind of like I said that about CJ Stroud in that if you ask me, do I think that the Texans would be able to win the Super Bowl with CJ Stroud? Absolutely. And the reason is everybody wants to say, "Oh yeah, look how great that is. He's got these weapons." And I'm like, he made them weapons.
yeah,
None of these cats on this team outside of Dalton Schultz was anyone that people looked at and went, "That guy's a weapon." That guy's
yeah,
and Nico Collins. This is his third year. A lot of people feel like Nico Collins is a rookie or is not. He's been around for 3 years. He just had Davis Mills
right,
and bad quarterbacks throwing to him. So CJ Stroud made him better
yeah,
just by being a better quarterback. So
yeah,
yeah, I think there's something to be said for having weapons, but Tom Brady never had a lot of weapons. He just made his receiver great.
right. He made Edelman, made Gronk, made
Yeah, Russ out
well,
in Seattle. I mean, who's the best wide receiver they've had in the last 25 years is probably DK Metcalf, but
yeah,
Russ still made a lot of his guys great. And they
yeah.
looked great, but I think it was because of Russ, not because of them.
I think the Seattle fans are still hanging on to Steve Largent.
Yeah, true. Was it the 80s? Oh
Yeah,
my goodness.
which
Yeah.
surprises me with the NFL teams that throw these big contracts at these quarterbacks when you because typically in general, best quarterback wins the game. Best quarterback creates dynasties. So, you look at Montana and Young and Brady and then you go Seattle, then they signed what's his name to 3, 4, 5 years
Geno
as their
Smith.
quarter. Who is it?
Geno Smith.
Yeah, Geno Smith for
Yeah.
70, 80 million. I'm like Kirk Cousins for 40 million a year. I mean, they
Yeah.
really believe? And even Daniel Jones, I sometimes I bypass
Oh,
the Giants because I'm a fan. He's not he's not the answer. So
no.
I don't understand where are they
It's
thinking themselves.
hard. I think what you do is you kind of look at it on a tier scale, right? A tier ratings, and you go, okay, no, we don't have Patrick Mahomes. There's no Patrick Mahomes in the draft. All right. We don't have that next tier down. So we
Yeah,
don't have Justin Herbert or Aaron Rodgers or Josh Allen
yeah,
or, you name those names. And then you're like, those are taken and they're not free agents. So
yeah,
now you're in that next tier of Kirk Cousins
yeah.
and Trevor Lawrence. And you're like, well,
Right, Derek
it's either
Carr.
this or just be terrible.
Yeah,
And I think a lot of times teams would rather be mediocre than have to fade bad seasons and angry
yeah,
fan bases. But I mean, honestly, that's if you do it right, that's how you rebuild
yeah,
is, making the right and teams like the Browns and the Bears And forever the Lions. I mean, these are teams that just felt snake bit because they would get the number one pick or get a high pick and just whiff on their quarterbacks. And
Yeah.
that's essentially the make or break for a franchise. So
Yeah, I would love to go into the Cleveland Browns front office and go, "All right, who's been making
my
these
gosh.
decisions for the past 15 years?"
Isn't that wild? Even the Deshaun Watson trade. I mean, when the Texans drafted Watson, I was like, well, cool. This is to answer that question. Yes, I think they can win a Super Bowl with Deshaun Watson. Franchise QB, check. Now let's get everything else going. And
Right.
then he wanted to leave, and there was all the weird things going on, and so it was like, oh boy, the Browns gave up a lot, but they got a Super Bowl caliber quarterback. And then you're like,
Right.
oh, Browns gonna Browns ever since the trade. I mean, what has he done?
Yeah. I
So
always compare the Browns to the Mets. I'm a Yankees fan, so
yeah.
it's always like the Mets they could sign whoever they want. They're just going to lose every.
Oh yeah, it doesn't matter. I mean, how much money did they spend in the
It's
offseason?
ridiculous.
Just like, wow. How do you not win with that pitching staff? Because you're the
I
Mets.
Yeah, yeah. And they could even trade. They didn't trade him, but DeGrom goes to Texas, still gets hurt, pitches a little bit, wins the World Series because he's not in a Mets uniform.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. That's it. Verlander gets far, but what does he do when he's with the Mets? Still pitch great. The same
Yeah,
numbers in New York and in Houston.
yeah.
It's different outcome.
Do you find it hard? And this is a baseball question. You find it hard to be an Astros fan post cheating scandal?
Absolutely not.
No.
Absolutely not. Because one, I take my fandom and move it aside when I do sports talk, right? So I
Yeah.
try to be real objective in my analysis of things. In fact, I make a lot of people in Houston mad because I mean, I picked the Browns to beat the Texans. I picked the Ravens to beat the Texans. So I don't pick as a fan and I don't break down or give opinions as a fan. I give them as somebody who looks at it from a lens of neutrality and just
Right.
give my thoughts.
Go
Now,
ahead.
I, you know,
You have to. That would be such a boring show. And the
oh my
Texans are going
goodness.
to go 18-0 this season again.
Yeah. And there's a ton of fan bloggers and guys who do that and have those shows. And to me, they're
Yeah.
unwatchable. It's just like, you can't think that this team is perfect. You can't just be oh rah rah, and that's just bad. That was just bad radio. So that's
Yeah.
kind of why I guess I got into that mode. But no, as a fan slash analyst or sports talk guy, it's not hard.
Yeah.
And what a lot of people that argue with Astros fans online fail to realize is that they always be like, well, they're cheaters. And it's like, most Astros fans have never denied that the team cheated, like ever. You'll never find
Right.
anything on Twitter, Facebook, or otherwise where I ever said, well, I don't believe. No, they 100% cheated. The question becomes, did it have a material effect
Right.
on the outcome of the World Series and some of their playoff games? And I think if you look at that Yankees series, there was a lot of grief, right? Aaron Judge, super upset about it. He lost an MVP to Jose Altuve, who, by the way, has ended up being the scapegoat for this cheating
Right.
fiasco.
It's always a little guy.
Of course, it's easier. They're not as smart, right? Call back. But the problem is Jose Altuve was one of the only guys to not cheat. But fans don't want to hear that. And so you're never
Right.
going to rationalize, especially with angry Yankee fans, you're never going to be able to rationalize with it.
Right.
But I mean, it was well known within the organization and out that him, Tony Kemp, and there was like 2 or 3 other guys that just didn't use it because it was distracting or whatever.
Right.
But if you look at it statistically, starting from the World Series and going back, the Astros won the World Series on the road in LA. I mean,
Right.
there's no trash can scandal on the road, right?
Right.
The Yankees had one of their worst hitting performances on the road in that series in 2017. Yeah, they mashed it home, which were they cheating? Well, no, they weren't cheating.
Right.
And the Astros certainly didn't hit great on the road, but they mashed it home. But no one realizes, yeah, that's sports. You play well at home and bad on the road.
Yeah.
And we're not accusing the Yankees of cheating for playing well at home and bad on the road. But the fact that the Yankees scored like 3 runs in 4 games on the road, you're not winning an ALCS doing that. You got to travel with your bats, or you're not going to win, because the Astros still had good pitching, and that's the other thing.
Yeah.
A lot of people fail to realize that was a really good pitching staff, which had, again, nothing to do with trash cans and cheating.
Right.
So there's all those arguments that people don't want to look at. You go back and look, Cody Bellinger hit like $130 in the World Series. They lost at home I mean, the Astros
Hmm.
celebrated the World Series victory in Dodger Stadium. So
Yeah.
cheating don't travel. You know what I mean? Like that, not their cheating scandal. So
Yeah. I think that's
sure, did
great
it
points.
help? I'm sure that it had some effect in some way, shape, or form, whether it was on guys' production and numbers and bonuses or whatever. But don't forget too, they hit better on the road than they did at home.
Yeah, and I think
Those numbers are out there. They
and I
hit
think
better on the
too,
road in 2017 than they did at home.
yeah, those are great points. And I think too, people don't so I think it's pretty widespread. And so people ask, why wasn't the punishment more severe on Houston? I'm like, have you ever thought that most teams are trying to steal signs in some way, shape, or form? And it might be more widespread than
You
just this
think
one team. It might be every team. And should they punish everyone that ever did this, we would not have a Major League Baseball.
facts. And the whole reason that the Astros are being punished, and this is again, I'm glad you brought that up because it's a great point that people don't realize. The Yankees and the Red Sox are the reason that the digital sign stealing mandate from MLB came down on the rest of the teams because the Yankees had set up cameras in the outfield and positioned them so that they could see the catcher and see the dugout, the visiting dugout at the same time. The
Right.
Red Sox were using Apple Watches. And so this was all going on around the same. And MLB was like, okay, guys,
Yeah.
no more. You can steal signs. You can stand on second and look in and lean left or lean right if it's inside or outside, or put your hands on your hips if it's a breaking ball. But you can do all that mechanically, but there's no digital sign
Right.
stealing that's going to be occurring using
Right.
cameras and watches, and enough's enough. And then teams kept doing it. And that's
Yeah.
when they said the next, this is it. No more
Yeah.
digital sign stealing. And the Astros just didn't stop.
Right.
And they just the fee, the scheme got bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
And that's the real difference. But yeah, there were players that came out and go, hey, did the Astros cheat? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But check out the White Sox, check out the Padres, the Dodgers, the Yankees, and they would name teams and everybody
Yeah.
would just go, no, but the Astros.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, dude, I'm not saying every major league team did it,
Right.
but cheating in baseball is, I mean, it goes all the way back. Corked bats and
Yeah.
Joe Negro spitballs. And I mean, it's just
And I think
always
too,
been a problem.
if you're on second base, you're even from little league on, you're trying to catch a sign for your hitter.
Absolutely.
So what's the
Have sign
real?
stealing is an integral part of the game. It's just you
Yeah.
can't do it digitally. And that
I find
was
it fascinating too, players now, and they're open about this, about pitchers will have quirks on the mound that'll tip pitches. It's almost the same.
absolutely,
It's so
absolutely.
fascinating. Like, when I know people that are just listening can't see this, but if the pitcher's holding the ball down further, it may be always a change up, and if it's up further, it's fat. And so hitters pick up on that, and they don't tell the pitcher, and then
Yep.
you kind of count on your team to say, "Hey, stop doing that. Do it the same
Yeah.
every way." We could talk about sports all day.
I
So
could
here's I won't
absolutely.
keep you much longer, man. I love it. Um, I want to end it with five questions for you. It's
Okay.
just like it's not a lightning round. You can kind of go. You could be one word answer. It could be whatever, but it'll be the same for all my guests. So, comedy influences for you.
I hate this question because I hate
Yep.
the answer. Only because of that. But I knew I was funny as a kid. I make my parents laugh, but it wasn't until I watched Bill Cosby's
Yeah,
himself,
of course.
and I was like, oh, I want to do that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
he is on stage, and even though he's sitting, he's commanding an audience,
Yep.
and he has them on the edge of their seat, and he's hilarious, and they're laughing uncontrollably. And so
Yep.
that was what made me want to do stand up was Bill
Totally.
Cosby. Now, style wise, I'm not like Bill Cosby.
Right.
I grew up on Def Comedy Jam.
Right.
So in high school, I loved Def Jam comedy. I
Yeah.
mean, loved it. I watched it all day, all night.
Yeah.
So I'm a little more in my dry bar special. I was a little more subdued and
Hmm.
read the room, right? But
Right.
if you come see me at a live show somewhere else, it trust me, it's a lot different than what you see on dry bar.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was my influence for sure. Was
Yeah,
Def Jam.
I could see that. I could absolutely see that. I think any comedy influence, we can kind of go back and say, oh, you know, did some bad things, you know, or terrible things. I'm not being dismissive. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I mean, so the second question is almost similar to the first. Can you think of a childhood memory that piqued your interest in comedy? So did something happen, or a funny relative, or
No, you
some?
know what it is? It was a story that I told at the dinner table that uh, for weeks and months and years beyond that story, my parents and my sister would bring it up and be like, "Oh, tell that story again about your PE teacher." And I just, it would, and I was maybe, gosh, I don't know. Well, my parents were still together. My parents divorced when I was 6, so I had to have been 5 or 6 years
Right,
old when I
right,
would tell stories at the dinner table and make my
yeah,
family laugh. And so that one story and that one moment and them bringing it up constantly was like, oh, okay,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
what that's like, having a memorable joke.
yeah, yeah. That's great, man. Favorite place to perform?
Um, Hyenas in Fort Worth.
Interesting.
It
Hyenas
is
in Fort Worth.
hands down. I mean, I love like the Stardom. I'm going to be there next week. I love the St. Louis Funny Bone, both of them. But the club in Fort Worth, the Hyenas Comedy Club,
Yeah,
is hands down. If you don't have a good set in at the Hyenas Comedy Club in Fort Worth, you're just not a good comic. Everyone kills. It's the best audiences. Just
nice,
so much fun.
nice. What do you wish were different about the comedy industry?
Ooh, the gatekeeping.
Yeah,
This is a really tough business to advance in.
yeah,
And a lot of people like to tell you, oh, well, they just weed out the riffraffs. Oh, I don't know if that's necessarily the case that you're weeding out the riffraff, but what it does do is it makes it a lot harder for great comics
yeah.
to have a great career.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, you and I both know a ton of comics that you watch and just go, why are you not a household name?
Right,
Why,
right.
I'm not speaking on behalf of me. I'm saying I know, I mean, I've opened for and worked with so many. I just sit here
Yeah,
name after name. I remember watching Dave Landau for the first time in 2014 and thinking, why is this dude not one of the
right,
top 5 comics in this country? What a phenomenal writer and performer he is,
right.
or others. There's so many on that list, but that's the big thing is that it's up to a very small few in the industry
Yeah,
to pick who they want. And
yeah.
it's rarely is it based solely on merit. Now a lot of it is based on social media numbers.
Yes, which
So
is the
social media also acts as a gatekeeper. So in
yeah,
general, that's what I'm saying is there's this gatekeeper thing where, well, you don't have 1 million followers. I'm not booking you at my club because
yeah,
obviously you're not funny. Okay.
yeah.
Got it.
Because it's all you follow the money, right? You follow.
Oh, for sure. Well, it's a butts and
Every,
seats business. I
yeah,
get that. I get that. But think about how many comics you see break and their career explodes and it's like there was somebody kind of picking that,
yeah.
you know what I mean, there was somebody somewhere that chose that, it feels like.
I do have two more questions, but one is specific for you. This will be one of the five. And you can't pick sports talk radio hosts.
Okay.
If you weren't doing comedy, what would you be doing for a living?
Probably project management in IT. I was before I got into comedy, I was a I was a project manager. And I started a career in IT when I met my wife. Well, I was in it, but yeah, I was an IT nerd for years
Okay.
and ended up being a project manager working for Fortune 50 companies, managing their projects and stuff like that, and IT related projects.
Yeah.
So
All right. This
that's what
is
I've been
just
doing.
for you. Super Bowl pick for who's going to be in the Super Bowl? Who's representing the AFC and
Oof,
NFC?
I gotta go chalk at this point. Based on what I saw,
Yeah.
I don't know that whoever wins between, and this is being recorded before the games, but whoever wins between the Chiefs and the Bills, boy, that Ravens team is complete.
Yeah.
I mean, both sides. You hear the term complimentary football. It's there. It's
Yeah.
there.
Oh yeah.
They stifled one of the best passing attacks like it was nothing,
Yeah.
that defense. So I got to go Ravens. And I mean, the 49ers pulled out a squeaker against the Packers. but I don't think that they're scared of the Lions or the Bucks, whoever wins that
Right.
game. So I gotta go chalk. I'm gonna go Ravens, Niners, and I'll take the Ravens. Defense travels, and
Yeah.
if that's the best. That defense was averaging giving up 16 points a game. That's
Okay.
Super Bowl level defense.
Very cool. I'm gonna go Bills Niners. And I know the
Nice.
Ravens are better, but the
Yeah,
Bills are just so hot.
their
And
time.
if they
Could
get,
be.
who knows? But look, uh barryisfunny.com has everything, including links to your no warning or no
Or no
warring.
warring. Yeah, that's the
Uh
that's the R-rated one though.
they shouldn't have
Yeah.
it. Drive our special. Your Twitch link is on there for your show. And anything clips are there. I saw a great website. But
Thank
it
you.
was a pleasure, man. I appreciate you taking the time to be with me today, and hopefully our paths will cross in the future.
Yeah, that'd be great, man. Thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun. I really appreciate you reaching out and bringing me in. This is a cool thing you do. So thanks for doing it.
All right, brother. Talk soon.
All right.